Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Laurel and Artistry. Today, I'm drawing the Elvenking of Mirkwood, Thranduil. An antagonist of sorts in The Hobbit, but by no means a villain. Thranduil captures the dwarves as they try to pass through his realm. I'm basing my drawing off of the Peter Jackson trilogy's depiction of the character, because although there are many issues with those films, Thranduil's character design is certainly not one of them. I'm going for a mix of anime and Art Nouveau inspired style for this drawing. Yes, I know that's nothing out of the norm for me. Thranduil here is Legolas's father, in case you didn't know, and they are Sindar, the type of elves that I'm quite partial to myself. These Sindar were originally ruled by Elvenking, but after his death and the fall of Doriath, they splintered off, with Thranduil's father Orifer ruling over a group of Sylvan elves in Greenwood the Great. After Orifer's death during the War of the Last Alliance, Thranduil became the king of the Woodland Realm. Greenwood later became known as Mirkwood after the necromancer, that is Sauron, built a stronghold called Dol Guldur in the woods, spreading darkness within them. The Hobbit book describes the Elven King as golden-haired, but with Tolkien's later refining of his world, golden hair was not a trait the Sindar possessed, so I go with a silvery white. Although it turned out not looking too different from the platinum blonde he has in the movies. You know, Thranduil actually changes his crown depending on the season, with a red leaf and berry one in the autumn, and a flower crown in the spring. So it might be fun to do all different seasonal drawings of the guy. Either way, I admire that he takes time to dress seasonally appropriate. Truly a fashionable king. I add in some lines to his hair to provide some texture and flow. And then give my drawing some hatching. Then I continue shading with some airbrushing. As I mentioned, Thranduil is depicted as an antagonist in The Hobbit, but most of his actions are fairly reasonable. Dwarves and elves have a contentious relationship, and the Sindar are especially wary as the feud between the two involved dwarves killing their king. So, for dwarves to trespass on Thranduil's realm, a place that isn't regularly ventured into due to perils such as giant spiders, and then disturb the elves' feasting, and refuse to elaborate on their reason for being there, it isn't entirely unjustified that he locked them up. Yes, he was acting in self-interest in going to claim some treasure from the Lonely Mountain after Smaug's death, assuming that the dwarves hadn't survived. But on his way, he helped the people of Lake Town when the dragon had destroyed their home. And I think it was justified for him to join with Bard, the man who had slain Smaug, against the dwarves, after Thorin refused to part with any treasure, even to help the very people who had been harmed directly by his actions. Sure, his motives might not have been purely altruistic, but Thranduil wasn't eager to go to war over gold at all. He had ventured to the mountain thinking the gold was there for the taking. He likely would have left if not for aiding Bard in getting due payment for the destruction caused. And of course, after the Battle of Five Armies, where they went from fighting the dwarves to allying with them against the orcs, Thranduil showed respect to the fallen Thorin by returning the sword he'd taken from him in Mirkwood. Thranduil even took fondly to Bilbo and named him an elf friend, a title given to those the elves recognized as having a special relationship or alliance with. Now for my final layer of shading, using a solid edged brush at a lowered opacity. After the events of The Hobbit, the elves of Mirkwood seem to have learned from their harsh treatment of the dwarves, when they showed perhaps a bit too much gentleness on a captive golem, leading to his escape. Poor Thranduil just can't seem to keep his prisoners from escaping. And during the War of the Ring, He fought long and hard in Mirkwood against Sauron's forces there, eventually securing victory. All that to say, our Elven King had his flaws. He wasn't the wisest of elves. He may have been overly suspicious, and of course wasn't above taking advantage of a situation out of a desire for riches and jewels. But he never let his desire for them consume him or make him act rashly. He was a good king to his people and looked after them well, and even though he had no desire to be a part of the affairs outside his borders, he still helped when need be. He may not be the boldest of heroes in Middle-earth, but he fulfilled his role with honor, and that's what counts. After finishing the shading, I add some final details, giving a bit of texture to my surfaces. I also realized I forgot to draw his rings. I realized I hadn't drawn his brooch either, but there was hair in the way of that anyways. Back to texturing, onto his clothes and robes. I think the Elven King is probably my favorite character in The Hobbit, though feeling Achilles' sacrifice in defending their uncle puts them up there as well, even if that is all we really know about them. I adjust the colors to be a bit deeper and warmer, and then I add a background. I was originally going to do a more detailed and intricate Art Nouveau style border and background, but I ended up liking how the simple background I drew looked and didn't think I needed to add anything further. And so with that, I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my drawing of Thranduil as well as the things I had to say. I'd love it if you stuck around for future videos on Tolkien and other assorted topics. In the meantime, remember to wear the correct crown for the season. Ciao!